this is fear that you cannot back up with any living experience where you have handled a snake before you have the information or the facts about the animal will be totally different. Cool. So diamond-shaped head, thin neck, fat body, short stub snake with chevron patterns on the spine. What type of snake is that? Today I'm responding to lots of questions that my daughter is going to pose to me. She wants to know more about my working experience with snakes. Should I tell her? Should I tell her? Should I respond? Welcome to my world, working with snakes. All right, so I'm here and I'm ready to respond to any question that you have about my working experience with snakes.
Okay, so let's start with your background. Were you always a snake person?
Not really. I was very, very terrified of snakes. I remember very well when I was young, when a snake is spotted, I was never the first person to be there. I would make sure that I keep a good long distance. There are also certain things that I've done that I'm not very proud of. Killed snakes before. I'm embarrassed. I would run away from a shaded skin of a snake. That would scare me. That was enough to scare me. So I was never a snake person when I was young. And if someone had stopped me somewhere as I was growing up or before I started working at the snake park and say to me, you end up working with snakes, I was going to rubbish him. I was not going to believe him because I was never a snake person.
Did you ever feel guilty watching your sister battle and fight off the snakes while you just stood there, kind of cowering in the crowd?
Embarrassing. That's the best way to describe it. And of course, some level of guilty or guiltness. Because you'd expect in the way we are raised in our culture, you are the man. You're supposed to defend and protect everyone, including your young siblings. So it was kind of embarrassing that I would let my sister handle a venomous snake whilst I'm keeping my good safe distance. Such an embarrassing moment. Why do you talk about my embarrassing moments?
Sorry about that. So where did this fear actually come from?
Misinformation. And lots of the misinformation, some of it is cultural. But before I even go there, what really, my own personal experience and what I find very weird is I've seen babies that are a year or so old that are terrified of snakes. So it could be you can be born with a fear, mother to child transmission, kind of. So there are situations where I've met, where I've seen babies that are very small and they are really, really terrified of snakes. And you wonder, how could they be so terrified when they've never seen a snake before? But with adults, it's more to do with fear that is irrational. So irrational fear, and this is fear that you cannot back up with any living experience where you would say to somebody, it's because I got bitten by a snake when I was young, or I lost a counselor, a politician, a father, a parent, a cousin. People don't have anything to back up their fear. So you would realize that the fear is trained or it's taught. And what teaches us? Culture. There are cultural beliefs that we have. Snakes won't die. You kill a snake in the morning, it will die at the end of the day. Snakes attack people, they chase people, and so on. So all this is said to instill so much fear. And most of the fear that most adults have, it's fear that they've learned. And they've learned from the sources that I've just, one of it being the culture. So in our beliefs, especially here in Africa, and I will speak with confidence because I'm an African, and I know very well that working with snakes is not something that people will take and understand and think it's done by a normal person. And it's driven by myths. There are so many myths that people have about snakes. What could help the situation would be move away from myths and have the facts. So if you have the facts, you realize that you will change your perception. The way you have handled a snake before you have the information or the facts about the animal will be totally different. So yes, so number one, it's the culture and the beliefs that people have. The second one is the movies. people take movies so seriously that they think they are, whatever they see or watch on movies, it's reality. But most of the movies are based not on facts, but to entertain people. And people don't realize that. So you notice that the movies that scare people a lot, when you actually watch them, you would wonder, why would a person believe that this would happen to you? A snake who bites you 10 times and it's so tiny. Where does it get the venom? Because small snakes obviously have got a small venom gland and they cannot bite repeatedly. It's an attribute that you don't find in so many snakes, where they are able to bite repeatedly, unless you hold on to them. So yes, my appeal to the movie people is, when you do these movies, please put some facts or have some little background check of the animal. For example, one important fact that I always wish they'll put in their movies is snakes don't attack. I know a lot of people won't believe this, but that's the reality. Snakes don't attack. Snakes will always try to move away from you. And if that was included in some of the movies that we've seen, I'm sure many people would have a different perception on snakes. Then the other thing with the fear, besides the movies and the culture, it's part of religion. Snakes are regarded as evil animals. And some will quote the Bibles, and one of my defense all the time has always been, the snake that we see today is not as intelligent as the one that was mentioned in the Bible. But it's my opinion. It can be subjective, but that's my take. I don't think if people really seriously look at a snake that we see every day today and think that is the most intelligent animal that is living on earth, I haven't seen much of its intelligence. It's just people want to believe that to make sure that they instill more fear, and more and more and more.
So to someone watching our conversation right now, how do we help them overcome their fear of snakes?
Well, it's not easy. It's not something that is going to disappear in a split second. It's going to be a process, and a process where someone has to dig more information about the animal, learn a lot about it through reading. It could be also watching programs that does show the animal. It also helps. Visiting the places where these animals are kept, it can also help you. Before we go, there's something that I wanted to say before we conclude our conversation. There is this story that happened, or that normally happened on my tours when I was still working at the snake park. And you'll be taking people around. I want to say upfront, you cannot know all animals, but definitely you try or start with the animals that occurs in your area. So it's the same with snakes. You cannot know all the snakes that are in this world, but you can at least start with the snakes that occurs in your area that you normally see. So there was this time, it happened often, that when I was on my tour, people would ask me about animals that I see or that we spot whilst we're on tour. For example, a frog. And then they'll say to me, "Oh, Shao, beautiful. What type of a frog is this?" Then I start blabbing. Didn't know what type of frog it is. It could be a bird flying past us whilst we are talking about snakes. They would ask me about the animal, and I can't identify the snakes the birds that occurs in the area that I live. So this talks to what most people are. We tend not to know the animals that surround us, that include the snakes as well. So information will help us. We read. Nowadays, information is everywhere. And as I've said earlier, you can also watch programs that shows these animals, and you can actually visit the places where these animals are looked after, because they give you an opportunity to interact. You get to interact with the animal, which also helps. So there's this learning part where you don't have the animal, baby steps. Then there's this part where you interact. So like at the snake park, we had an opportunity that would give to everybody who wishes or who wants to hold a snake, touch it, feel it, take pictures, and so on, because it helps a lot. So yeah, that is my suggestion. But as I've said, it's fear that is ingrained for a long time in people's minds. So it's not going to disappear in one shot. It's a gradual process where you continuously interact with the information, watching programs and visiting these places, that over a period of time you will be able to overcome fear or poverty. Because I was inspired mainly by my situation. I desperately wanted a job, and that helped me to overcome my fear. And the monies that I got was so good, so I was like, hey, snakes, kill me, I'm going to work with you. And here I am 10 years later. So it's something that people can overcome. I'm a testimony to that. And there are so many people, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. There are so many people that have managed to overcome this fear, and I promise you, everyone else who is willing, it starts with your willingness. Are you willing to fight your fear? Do you really want to? Because some people want to hang on to their fear. It's fancy, especially when it comes to snakes. People choose to prefer to continuously have this fear. I don't know why, but I've noticed that no matter how much you talk to people, they still go like, well, I heard your story, but snakes are scary. Like, what's scary about them? You don't know. So yeah, that's. I hope this is helpful. I hope this will help someone out there, and that's what I can say when we are asked to help someone who has got fear for snakes. Some have what we call snake phobia, which is slightly beyond the fear. It's something that people panic. So those people, I advise them probably never to come closer. Maybe they cannot overcome it. I don't know. I'm not a specialist in that area, but I've noticed that there are some people that would freeze or even wee in their pants when they see a snake. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's how. But with those that can actually watch a program, those that have watched Snakes in the Plane and so many other movies about snakes, surely they can, if they choose to fight their fear, following what I've just said, they can fight their fear. Okay, now as we wrap up our conversation, I want to test, you are a daughter of a snake man.
Yeah.
And I want to see if I have been doing a good job of teaching you. So what we're going to do, and I wish to do this on all our episodes where we ask, I'm going to ask you, but we are going to ask also our visitors. Our people that are watching,
viewers.
The viewers, yes. Those that are watching our show to respond to the questions that I'm going to ask. So the difficult one is, there is a snake that is very famous in the entertainment industry, such that big musicians like Britney Spears have done some of their act with the snake, and it's a big snake. And I want to ask you, what type of snake is it?
Okay, so white python, an albino white python with like yellow stripes, something like that.
Something like that. Well, it's not very far from the truth, so well done. It's called an albino Burmese python. We used to joke with our visitors at the snake park and call it the cheese-flavored snake, because it looked like it's made out of cheese. So you can see that snakes well behaved in the entertainment industry, models, dancers. There's a lady in South Africa, Glenda Camps. She used to visit clubs with a snake and does her business. So there are animals that can tolerate a lot of activities that happens in clubs, and they still survive without any incident. So they are amazing. And so last question. This time it's identifying a snake. So I'm going to do
Gotta
it.
get my A game on now.
Yes, I'm going to do it very fast.
Okay.
And you have to listen very carefully.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay, cool. So diamond-shaped head, thin neck, fat body, short-stabbed snake with chevron patterns on the spine. What type of snake is that?
Perfect.
What? Well done. Thanks so much. And that's it.